Words develop and change over time, and they are often adapted from other languages. The study of the origin of words is called etymology, and understanding it helps to contribute to our knowledge in other areas. An example of how etymology works can be illustrated by the word etymology itself. It's adapted from the Old French word étymologie. This developed from Latin, which in turn was influenced by the Greek. The Greek word for etymology came from other Greek words, etymon and logia, which came from the words etymos, meaning true, and logos, meaning speech. A bit of knowledge about the development of English is useful to understand etymology. English comes from the Indo-European family of languages, which has several branches, including Italic, which is where languages like Latin and French come from, and Germanic, which is where English is from. Germanic developed into three branches, one of them being West Germanic. This split into High German and Low German, which is what Anglo-Saxon, otherwise known as Old English, came from. This became Middle English, then Modern English, which is what we speak today. To understand English etymology, it's also important to look at foreign influences. Celtic used to be the main language in England, though now the Celtic influence in English is minimal. Anglo-Saxons arrived in England in 1449 AD, speaking their language, Germanic in origin. The Normans invaded in 1066 AD and conquered England, and they spoke French. Years later, around 1500, the scientific revolution and Renaissance created the need for many new terms, which were often taken from Latin and Greek. Looking at how different languages were introduced to English helps to understand the role they play. For example, in England, after the Normans invaded, the lower class people spoke Old English, while the upper class spoke French, and the very educated people knew Latin. This has an impact on words of those origins. To show this, let's look at brother from Germanic and fraternal, which is Latin in origin. Brother comes from Old English, which was from Middle Low German Bruder, which itself came from Germanic. Fraternal comes from medieval Latin, which developed from the Latin fraternus, which comes from frater, meaning brother. Brother or brotherly and fraternal literally mean the same thing, but they have different connotations. Brotherly brings up ideas of feeling like brothers, or the actual person. Because the lower class spoke a Germanic language, the words that come from it are much more everyday and straightforward. Words that are Italic, however, seem more refined and are concerned with the ideas instead. Fraternal suggests something more organized than brotherly, such as a fraternity. Knowing etymology helps people have a better understanding of words and ideas behind them, but this is not the only reason for studying it. It also improves and helps with learning foreign languages. Looking at brother again, we see that it comes from Germanic. If you look, you'll see that other languages developed from it too. Through Old Norse comes the Swedish word for brother, and by looking at Old High German, we can see the development of the modern German word Bruder. But the Swedish and German words have a D in them, and with some knowledge of etymology, it is easy to recognize that pattern in English etymology as well. There are even more advantages to etymology. It helps a lot with understanding old versions of a language. Sometimes meanings of a word change over time, but even if they don't, it is far easier to understand words when we can make connections to the ones that we use now. With a knowledge of Middle or Old English, it's possible to read older stories in the original version. In this excerpt from Beowulf, we can see the Anglo-Saxon word for brother again and recognize it. There are many reasons to study etymology. It improves use of modern English, helps when learning foreign languages, and opens up parts of our history. The more you know, the more you understand English and its relation to the rest of the world.